Hey guys, it's Woody the Unexceptional Gamer, and this is not that great a game. And we really, what the truth is that we ran into a bunch of players who were overmatched, so we all got really good scores. And I thought I'd put it up there as a backdrop for what I really wanted to talk about, which was what work is really like. So a lot of you guys are younger, or even if you're still in college, you haven't really been in, I guess, what I'll call the real world. I don't mean to. It almost sounds like a put down, but you haven't been in the work world yet. And I thought I'd talk about what it's really like, what you can expect when you're young, what you can expect as you age, and I thought that might be an interesting topic to talk about, since this gameplay is pretty much find players who are new to Call of Duty and take advantage. Anyway, when you first come out of college, you're going to you'll probably be put in a situation with low expectations, which is kind of a nice deal. Doesn't matter if you're an accountant, if you're an engineer, if you're a computer programmer, or whatever. Then they don't really expect you to hit the ground running. Instead, they just expect you to pick it up quickly and to show some sort of interest. They'll also expect a level of professionalism that you might not be used to doing. So, if you call your friends by curse word names, if you I don't know. If you just don't act like a grown-up at the office, you'll have to develop the office version of you, and that's just whatever. If you answer your phone ridiculously, knock that crap off, because that doesn't fit at work. And yeah, so that's it. It doesn't mean you have to completely abandon who you are. It just means that when you're at work, you need to build the professional version of yourself, and that's that. Like I said, the expectations will be fairly low, and that's a really nice thing. But you will be measured by how quickly you pick things up, and that just means that the trick to doing well on that measurement scale is to pay careful attention when you're being taught what you're doing. And it sounds like an obvious thing, but if you evaluate yourself on how much you pay attention in class right now, are you really hanging on that guy's every word? One of the skills you'll have to pick up is people are going to be less forgiving about telling you the same thing twice. People, when you're in school, they tell it to you, then they ask you to read it, then they ask you to do a problem about it. And if you just catch on one of those three methods that they're trying to teach you something, then you're in good shape. In the work environment, they're going to tell it to you, and then they're going to expect you to have understood what you heard. So at least in short bursts, you're going to have to start paying attention and doing well. Another thing about work that's different than the school environment that you've been in before is you deal with people with all kinds of ages. Now, if it's like every work environment I've been in, there's an opportunity to sort of go to lunch and hang out with people. And especially if it's a bigger company, then you'll be able to sort of form your own clique of people who are your age group. And that's kind of nice. But you'll also, you'd be doing well to start getting along with people who are older than you. And, that means maybe being a little less silly now and then. Who the heck knows? But it's not going to be like school where everybody is your age, boys and girls. It's going to be like work where everyone is all kinds of different ages. It's one thing that that you would do well when you're at work. Your job there is to make your boss look good. That's it. So you might think to yourself that you're some sort of independent free agent or whatever, but at the very top, their job is to make the company do well, and then they have this vision, right? If it's a really big company, it might be limited to the customer service arm of our company is going to be really good. If it's a smaller company, then it's probably more sales related. But at the very top, they're measured by how well the company does. And as it flows down, they're measured by how well they implement their boss's vision. And that's true for you too. Even as a new guy, your job when you're there is you want to make sure that you line up with what your boss is doing. Now, this is not the same as brown nosing. That's not what I'm talking about. But, if you disagree with him, you disagree in private, and then you lined up in public. It's not your job to look smarter than your boss in a meeting or something crazy like that. Depending on where you work, what time you get there and what time you leave, sometimes those are really measured. And like where I work, for example, it even depends on the group. Some groups really measure your productivity, and that's it. And if some guy could somehow magically work from 10 to 2 and be more productive than a guy who worked 12-hour days, then more power to him. But in other groups, how many hours you put in is really one of the big ways in which you are measured. So you need to figure out the scope of that and then succeed under those parameters. You're measured by productivity, or you're measured by the hours that you put in, etc. And at the very least, get to work on time. That's kind of a big deal. And when you're like a college student or a high school student, sometimes these things can go slack. Maybe not so much getting there on time, but when you first leave this environment and it feels like the shackles are off and you have no structure, you need to keep in mind, like, you know what, you have at least this minimum amount of structure and get that going. I work with some pretty unprofessional young people. I worked with one guy who ran out of laundry and he didn't have any clean underwear, so he wore a bathing suit to work. And it's funny, and I'm a little more like slack about this kind of thing. I thought it was just hilarious and that the guy was a legend, but I really think it tarnished his professional image at work for a long time. Like even 6 years later, when he was a pretty different person. I mean, from 22 to 28, you really changed. He got married. I think he had a baby, and he was still the guy that wore a bathing suit to work when he was young. So keep that in mind, and all this stuff sort of goes on your permanent record, and that's that. Another thing is changing jobs. So if you stay in the same place at a company early in your career, it can be really difficult to work your way up the promotion ladder. It's much faster if you're aggressive and you go to other companies, and it's good for you too to get that experience and see how other places do it instead of just limiting yourself to existing in one company. So I would really recommend changing jobs early on as a way to not only advance your career quicker, but to advance your knowledge curve and make that better. One thing that's different about work compared to other environments is everybody wants to get along with everybody, or at least they do in good jobs. So if that's not the culture where you are, then I might suggest looking for a place with a better culture. But when you're in high school and when you're in college, there's kind of an in crowd, there's an out crowd, and your aspiration is to be popular or whatever. When you're at work, it's not really like that. I mean, you might click with some people more than others, but there's no notion of having a higher social standing than some other person. Really, it's just, I don't know how I survived that. Really, it's more about just trying to be friendly, trying to get along with everyone. You're graded on how nice you are, not some ridiculous high school like notion of how popular you are, or what a beast you are at this or that. So that's a little different, and it's something to get used to at work. You might see a guy who's chubby and balding and the sort that you might pick on if you were in high school, because he's just not cool like you are. But at work, what makes you cool kind of goes out the door. What makes you cool? Being easy to get along with, and that's about the beginning and the end of the story. So that's another difference. But overall, being a grown up is not so bad. You get a little freedom, you get a little money in your pocket, and those are really nice things. And once you figure out how to do well at work, then I think you can enjoy it. So you've got plenty to look forward to. Have a good day.